In the summer of 2022, Ian Golding, Pantelis Kartrumpis, Francois Lafont, and Julian Winkler produced a working paper pertaining to the question, why is productivity slowing down? More specifically, this was in relation to the decline in measured labour and productivity growth over the recent decades. It was noted that when comparing the period after 2005 to the 1996 to 2005 decade, there was a generalised slowdown in productivity in advanced economies, with labour productivity growth falling from around 2% to less than 1%. After analysing data from 5 countries, specifically France, Germany, Japan, the UK, and the US, the article introduces us to various factors such as new waves of technological development, lowered capital deepening, reduced global trade, or structural changes like in corporate governance, where there is evidence to suggest these are correlated to the decrease in productivity. For instance, the reduction in the contribution of capital deepening seemingly was responsible for almost 45% of the slowdown in the US. It is also mentioned that investments in intangibles may impact labour productivity through TFP due to its higher potential for spillovers. The paper surmises that the factors listed are likely to explain, at least in some part, the slowdown in each country, but the relative contributions obviously vary to the degree in which they weigh. In this video, we are going to focus on 2 points to undertake and explain in depth: capital deepening and TFP, and how they relate to the main question of the paper. The article expresses that a decrease in capital deepening is one of the main reasons why productivity is slowing down. But what is capital deepening? Capital deepening refers to the extent of investment made on capital equipment within the economy. There are various causes for its decrease in the last decades. The 2008 crisis on the one hand, which has led to depressed demand and credit frictions, and secular trends on the other. These might include decline in business dynamism and change in corporate governance or globalization. To better understand the relationship of capital deepening and productivity, we shall provide a deeper analysis of it through a solo growth model, which attempts to explain economic growth with capital accumulation. The graph below illustrates this. From the graph we can see there are 4 curves, one for the new investment, one for the old investment, one for the production output, and one for the depreciation. The intersections between the investment curves and the depreciation curves are named steady states, when investment equals depreciation. By increasing the investment in capital and therefore increasing the investment rate S, we can see a shift from the lower steady state to the higher one, which in turn also leads to a higher output per capita, assuming that the population size, TFP, and the depreciation rate are constant. A decrease in investment, instead, would lead to the opposite effect, with the steady states shifting to the left of the original one, and resulting in a lower production output. Therefore, using this model we can infer that if the current capital deepening situation does not improve, the steady state of the economy will not change. Its eventual improvement or the addition of external capital may stimulate productivity, but the diminishing returns from the capital will always shift the economy back to the low steady state in the long run, overall slowing down the productivity rate. This doesn't really happen because there is a missing factor here, TFP. The solo model has indeed its limitations due to the numerous assumptions it undertakes. Population size, depreciation rate, and TFP are assumed to be constant, although the article suggests that the total factor productivity has actually changed throughout the years. However, despite this, the relationship between the decrease in productivity and the decrease in investment suggested previously still holds. In fact, analysing the phenomenon through the lenses of a more realistic model, the combined solo-Roma, which overcomes the limitations of the standalone solo model by explaining economic growth also of the TFP factor, it can be proven that reduced productivity is linked to reduced capital deepening. In the combined production function, YT and S are indeed positively correlated. The second factor we want to analyse, and that is also positively correlated to productivity, is AT, the total factor productivity. As it is shown in the function, the contribution of AT to output per capita is even greater than the one from the investment rate, since the exponent is greater. But what is TFP exactly? TFP is a measure of productive efficiency that quantifies how much output is produced by a certain amount of inputs, and this can depend on various factors including labour allocative efficiency and technology. With regards to the first point, due to the reduced competitiveness in the market and less business dynamism, labour allocative efficiency decreases. This means that the chance for a correct and effective match between labour and job is reduced, and it in turn yields to be a less efficient market system in which people are not able to give the best of themselves according to their skills and knowledge. As a consequence, productivity is lowered. Passing on to the second point, Although we cannot ensure there has been an effective technological slowdown after 2005 compared to the previous period, surely there has been a shift to digital technologies. As Gordon suggests, this shift leads to lower TFP and hence lower productivity, since the new technologies might be less transformative and less productivity enhancing than past innovations, as they only affect specific aspects of human activity like communication and entertainment. This interpretation is actually intuitive. If new technologies are targeting more the social aspects of humans instead of the productivity aspects, the overall productivity slows down consequently. However, we are not able to provide a more in-depth explanation of the phenomenon purely using the knowledge that we have. The Roman model, for example, illustrates the relationship between worker productivity, existence of new ideas, and the number of workers producing new ideas, and highlights that a decrease in the new innovative ideas correlates directly with worker productivity. By referring to what is mentioned earlier, the reduction in the impact of technologies is concerned with the quality of the ideas, and not the quantity. Indeed, the decrease in quality does not necessarily reflect the decrease in quantity. Hence, according to the current model, we are not able to analytically explain the intuition of the correlation between technological impact and productivity, and further investigations on this topic are required. Overall, apart from labour allocative efficiency and technology, many other factors contribute to TFP, and these include health, institutions, and also human capital. In general, the article has provided a deep insight into the actual functioning of the economic system by illustrating the numerous factors which may be accountable for the productivity slowdown in the 5 advanced countries, including capital deepening and TFP, as we have presented so far. There is no doubt that it still contains inaccuracies or debatable points. For example, it might be true that technology and capital deepening actually influence productivity, but the article also claims that slowdown in educational attainment is not a candidate explanation for it, although the Roman model actually suggests the contrary. The usage of existing knowledge should indeed lead to increasing returns to ideas and objects, and therefore, as the level of education increases, new workers should be able to more efficiently utilize existing knowledge to generate new ideas, which can ultimately lead to an increase in productivity. This misalignment between theory and findings may be due to errors in the data analyzed, or to the too limited time frame authors are considering. If their research drew upon data from more extended periods, results about the correlation between education level and productivity might have differed. Also, the findings presented in the article are not equally valid for all the 5 countries analysed. Some factors applicable to explain the productivity slowdown in France, for instance, might be invalid in the US. Therefore, although the article has shown some valuable insight into the reasons for the reduction in productivity, it is still limited in research depth, and further research might be required to clarify the eventual doubts or inaccuracies arising from its reading.